First question is, I just love the name. What is Campfire's origin story, and where did you guys come up with the name? I mean, I love it.
Well, I'll tell you, it's a pretty long origin story, actually, but it came on the heels of me spending a decade in immersive tech, running efforts at Qualcomm and then PTC. So I was very familiar with the need. And then I was approached by some investors that had actually bought assets of a former immersive tech company called the Meta Company. And it was kind of ashes at that point of what was left. And I saw an opportunity to take the ashes that were left and turn them to what we have as Campfire today. When we started, we were actually doing some hardware of our own. And now because of Quest 3 and other devices, we left that behind to focus on software. And with respect to Campfire, I don't think we could come up with another name that sort of conjures what we do and what makes us different that's any better than Campfire. Our whole thing is premised on the fact that people collaborate most naturally and communicate most naturally around things like a campfire, or your dinner table, or conference room table. And our software and the way it all works really is all designed around that principle. So yeah, we love the name.
Yeah,
really
I love it. Just the image immediately of telling ghost stories. You've been quoted saying recently, especially, that we're like at this inflection point for XR. Yeah. And I'm curious, what do you mean by that?
Yeah, when I'm talking about inflection point, a lot of it is on the device side. I feel like in the past 12 months, we've seen more change in XR hardware than since I've been doing this in the last 15 years. If you look back to computing in prior generations, it's very much like the transition maybe from mini computer to PC. And I think we just hit the equivalent of the PC with Quest 3, where we've got something that everybody understands and is accessible and easy to use. But yeah, if we look back in the last year, right, like all these devices we've been talking about for a decade, like HoloLens, magically not around. And now, with pass-through on Quest 3, I mean, this might be a little aggressive, but I kind of think every headset that doesn't have really good pass-through is something close to a doorknob. I should have said doorstop. Doorknob probably has more utility. And devices are just going that way. It's just been a dramatic change. I think that's even going to accelerate now, this transition, after we saw things like, Project Orion a couple weeks ago. I think everyone realized, oh my God, the consumer end game, it's visible.
So wow, they look just like my glasses. I wear bulky black glasses.
Do you?
Just like my glasses, yeah. I've been around in this space since 2015. I completely agree. The pace of advancement, the devices I've seen come and go.
It's just totally changed. It's a pass-through story. Quest 3's led it. Others are coming. And then I think coincident with that transition to like Quest 3, which I'm calling the PC, I think there's also a new generation of software that makes it really easy for people to use these devices. And Campfire is certainly put in that category, right? But we're moving from a period of having to build custom applications and a lot of time and a lot of money to get something really hard to use to off-the-shelf software that feels like stuff that we're used to. It just works with 3D and spatial information. But that's what I mean by the inflection point.
So my next question is actually a kind of a follow-up. So, what's been the impact in enterprise that you've seen of these next generation headsets like Vision Pro? And what are you most looking forward to about some of the upcoming rumored headsets, particularly like something like Orion? I know Samsung apparently has something in the works. Maybe there's Vision Pro Vision Pro 2 in production now. Yeah.
I think the needle mover is Quest 3, was Quest 3. I think the price performance on pass-through on that device and the scale it was deployed got more impact than anything else. But what we're seeing is people that were dismissive of VR in the past. I can't see anybody. I'm afraid of what I look like. I'm uncomfortable. Like so many of those things just go away when they can see through. A quote from a customer just yesterday morning is like, he's trying Quest 3 for the first time, been doing this XR VR thing for years and years. And he says, look, I feel like this is immersive in a natural way. And I think he said, I'm immersive in a natural way, but not down the rabbit hole.
Yeah.
So it's just accessible and approachable to a lot more people, which is kind of why I say the PC moment. The other interesting thing is you might think, because it's a consumer device, that it wouldn't have much impact in enterprise because it's consumer, but it's counterintuitive. The fact that it is a consumer device is actually what's driving the enterprise because the price is low. People can rationalize buying it or have already bought it as a consumer, maybe with their kids or play games or exercise, and they're taking it to work and figuring out what it can do. So, it's bringing this whole thing we used to call consumerization of IT, like we saw with the iPhone, that people bought it as consumer, took it to work, and then it just started becoming part of workflows and software supported it, IT supported it. I think it's exactly the same phenomenon.
I used to think it was going to go the other way, like the BlackBerry. Like, you would use it at work and bring it home but it wasn't really going like that. But definitely, the biggest thing with this tech is putting it on. Once you put it on,
Yeah.
you brainstorm 1,000 ways. So
Yeah, I think that's right. I think that's right. You can't really appreciate it just being described to you. You've got to experience it.
yeah, for sure. So, as a software company, I like to ask this question. What is your advice for enterprises that are trying to choose from all of these different XR hardware options that are now on the market, especially with how fast the pace of advancement is, the fear that something might become obsolete before you finish rolling it out? And
I mean, look, the obvious answer is don't focus on anything tied to a device, right? Look for device independence in the software you're looking at. Maybe to take it a step further, I'd say really consider the use case that you're looking at and make sure the device fits. So a lot of times people that are talking about hardware or devices talk about two different devices like they're interchangeable, something like a HoloLens or Quest 3, right? And the reality is for the use case, there's some where you can only use a HoloLens, right? If you're on a manufacturing floor, you need to have peripheral vision. You can't put something around your entire face. So consider the use case and make sure that the device selection fits the use case that you're looking for.
good advice. What are some of the most common roadblocks that you see your customers face, and how have you kind of helped them overcome them?
Well, at the highest level, we're helping our customers share 3D information, and largely it's 3D that's coming from CAD. So you've got folks in the company that can use CAD. You got a lot of people that are non-engineers, non-CAD users that get a lot of value out of having access to that data, whether it's a cross-functional design review, whether it's sales folks showing their products or training. And what we do is we make it really easy for non-engineers to work with CAD data. We literally make it as easy to share CAD and 3D as it is to share, pictures and text and PowerPoint.
How is Campfire making XR more accessible to enterprises of all sizes? Some people would think that this really is a Fortune 500 game because they have the money.
Yeah.
But like you said, with the price of hardware coming down.
I mean, look, the best way to make stuff available for companies of all sizes is to make it available for free and self-service. Self-service meaning I could just go get the app and download it. Mm-hmm. And that's what we've done with Campfire. I mean, anyone that wants to try Campfire can go to our website. They can create a free account. They can download the apps and they can get going. And I don't think you can say that about all XR solutions, but you can, whether you're an individual student or you're a C-level executive at a Fortune 500 company, you can get into it and it can scale to the needs of your organization.
Great. What are the challenges of, you mentioned that you're taking existing CAD models for the most part. And this is a big challenge we hear from the end user side is, what are the challenges of repurposing these existing 3D assets with CAD models for immersive apps? It sounds like you guys have kind of cracked this and made it easy.
We make everything as easy as we possibly can. There's room for improvement everywhere. But I think challenge number one, and generally we see this in training because people want to take what is CAD and they want to make it suitable to show people how to do things. And generally the CAD models are just too big. They got too many parts, too much detail, and all that detail is not necessary for the training use case. For example, you got parts inside or circuit board or wires or just a bunch of internal layers or parts that no one cares about if they're just trying to show the outside. And so you have this exercise that you need to go through of, maybe getting rid of stuff on the inside and getting rid of screws and washers and nuts and bolts so that you can get things a little bit smaller and manageable. And of course, the reason to get them more small and manageable is just to make them work better and be more performant on a wider range of devices.
For sure. Another one we see and we hear coming up a bunch is, once you get those 3D models from your CAD models, how can you repurpose those for other applications like sales, like training, going from maybe you've created these things or you've converted them for design reviews. Is it possible to take it to elsewhere in the business?
Well, if you've got things you're using for engineering or design reviews, you probably don't have pretty materials and textures, and they're not ready for photorealistic renderings and things. So for that level of activity, you're going to need some other folks inside your organization that can do that are going to take things that might not even have those in CAD, and sometimes they do, and be able to do that. So some of that kind of work can happen in Campfire. So for example, people might take in materials that are CAD and don't have any color or material information and then just color code things like for training use to just, drag and drop different colors on different parts. But if you do want to start going into sales and marketing and get photorealistic renderings, there's another set of tools that are really, really good at doing that.
Do you think it's necessary for enterprises today to hire XR developers?
In some cases, absolutely. Off-the-shelf software and things like Campfire can serve a wide variety of needs. But if you've got something that's really, really specialized and there's a business case to build your own application, then you by all means. The thing to remember is that before you're going to embark on one of these projects or efforts, do a survey of the landscape of what's off the shelf and make sure there's not something there that can do it. Because once you get into these things, you're going to inevitably find out they're more expensive and take longer than you think. And a lot of people will estimate custom projects based on what they've done in like 2D land.
Right.
And then you start coming to 3D land, and it's not just going from 2D to 3D. It's going from a device that's basically got a rectangle for a screen to this spatial thing and different controllers and different displays and different UI paradigms. And it is a whole different game, a whole different game.
So we went through these pretty quick. What's next for Campfire?
We talked about making things just easier to use and easier to adopt. That's what makes Campfire Campfire. So for us, there's some additional devices and things that we're hard at work on. Some of them are new devices. Some are actually going back in time a little bit because we've got some customers that can't move forward and get new devices on their approved list. So we're going back a little bit. Another area, you kind of talked about it in repurposing and bringing in your CAD assets. We want to make it as smooth as possible, as easy as possible to get your CAD data wherever it lives today. Sometimes that might be on your computer and the file system. It might be in PLM. It might be in other locations. We just want to make that smooth because at the end of the day, people only adopt these tools to the extent they can really be a natural extension of their current workflow. But plenty to do, Emily.
Always, and always new devices to support. So
yeah, that keeps it fun.